So in my last video on nodes, I had 3 objects here and I applied links to them. And I wanted to continue from there and add in animation and sound. So this is kind of plain, so I actually did another scene. I'm going to go ahead and close that. I put some links into a scene that I thought was a little more interesting to help demonstrate a few more capabilities of Blend4Web. This is a spherical image in here, and I did a video on how to do that too. If you haven't seen it, you can go find that. I'll put a link to it. And this might look complicated, but it's not. If I look at my scene, I've got 3 objects just like I did before. They're just slightly, whoops, I got moved my light there. They're just slightly more fancier just to make it look a little more interesting. I have a few lights there. This light and this light are positioned to give a reflection that would roughly emulate the reflection of the light in my environment. And to give you an idea where my environment is, it's invisible right now because I have it blanked out right up here. If I call that my room, so if I come up here and click the eye, then you can see my environment. And I keep that invisible because it's so huge that it gets in the way. I should show you the mesh on that real quick. I flattened the top and the bottom to sort of match the floor and the ceiling. I tried the walls a little bit, but it seemed to just work better to leave them how they were. So let's make that invisible and go back to my 3 objects. So what I'm going to do is I'll be applying some animations to these, and then we will just stick them in the non-linear actions panel. And just in case all you want to do is a simple animation, I'll go ahead and cover that while we're doing this because it's sort of on the way. Let's get rid of that panel for now, and we can get rid of that just at the moment. So first thing I'm going to do is, if you look at these, the origin is right in the center, and with the animation I have in mind, I would like the origin to be far outside of the geometry because of the way I'm going to have it spin around when you click on it. What I was thinking. So I'm going to place my cursor where I want the origin to be first. Let's get into look at the top, and I do want my cursor to be directly under it. So then let's go down here, and I want it to spin around an axis right down around here. So let's put it right there. That looks pretty good. And so I'm going to go ahead and set the origin to all these links to the cursor position. That way when I rotate, they will all rotate around that position. So I'll select that. I'm going to go to Object, Transform, and I'm going to put Origin to 3D Cursor. And I'm going to repeat that with these. Object, Transform, Origin, 3D Cursor, Object, Transform, Origin to 3D Cursor. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just your real basic animation to see how that works, in case that might be all you want to do if you just want an animation to play. I'm going to bring that out, and what I'm going to do is make it just spin 360 degrees when it gets clicked. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to have it be fairly quick. I'm thinking let's see what it looks like doing that in 10 frames. So in its current position, I want to set a keyframe. So I'm going to come up and hit the object panel up there. So if I just say, click on the eye and hit rotation, it's going to create a keyframe in the rotation area. And I'm going to then rotate that. I want it to rotate backwards 360 degrees like that. And if I look right up here, see it's 360.7, so I'm going to go ahead and type in 360 to make it exact. Actually, that was negative 360 because I want it to spin backwards. Negative 360. Enter. Now before I just hit the I key and went ahead and clicked on rotation, I can do the same thing if I hover my cursor over here and hit the I key, I think. Oh, I have to move my playhead where I want it. So I'm going to try 10 frames because I want this to be a fairly quick spin. Let's try that. Okay, so now it's green, so that indicates that it is not a keyframe. So let's try that again. We'll hover there, hit the eye. Now it has been keyed to that position. So let's scrub our playhead here, and it doesn't work. So let's try that one. Oh, okay, because we set that back to 0. So let's set that back to 0. Enter, and I'll just go and click I over that, and let's try it now. There we go. Now it's spinning how we want it to spin. One thing you can do, I would like this to spin quickly in the beginning and slow down at the end. So we can bring out another panel here. I'm going to hit N and T to get rid of those, and I'm going to bring out what is I want? I want the graph editor. Yes, the graph editor. And oh, I want to hit View and All. View All. There we go. So here's my graph editor, and by 10 frames it's slowing down. So I want speed up quicker. So I'm going to select on that and grab that little toolbar. I think that's the wrong one. I want that one, don't I? Let's try that. No, that's not the one. There we go. That's the one I want. And I want that to spin very quickly and then slow down at the end. Click OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and make the end, we'll change this later, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to make the end 20 frames. Enter. And so that way it's only 20 frames long. So it's going to go bang, 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 like that. Now, if all you wanted to do was a simple animation, that's pretty much done, except for this. Now, make sure you're on Blend4Web, and if you don't see that Blend4Web, it's not installed. See my video on installing Blend4Web into Blender. So we're going to come to the Object panel and come to Apply Default Animation and leave it as Loop. And we're only going to do this for this simple animation. We will undo that for our non-linear animation where we only want it to animate when we click. So let's go ahead and export that and see what it looks like. File, Export, HTML. And I'm going to pull that up. I think I have it up here. Okay, so let's refresh that and see if our object is animating. There it goes. That's kind of odd. Let's go back into here and see if we can figure out why it would do that. I think it's just going so fast you can't see the thing move. So let's bring it out to 20 frames. I'm going to delete a keyframe. So the easiest way to do that is in the dope sheet. There. Let's zoom into that. And I'm going to hit A key to select them all, and then B for box. And then just X, Enter. And those are gone. And we're going to use this later on, so we can leave that there for the moment. And we're going to get rid of this one when it's doing what we want. So let's see what that does now. Oh, we need to put our keyframe up here on 20. Make sure that's on 20 frames right there. And then we're going to go ahead and right here, we know it's negative 360, so we can just enter that in. All right, so let's scrub that and see if let's hit I on top of that thing. There we go. Now it exists. And let's scrub the keyboard. So it should go backwards. Let's try that. Let's go ahead and export HTML. And let's bring it up and look at that. I leave some of these mistakes in because, man, let's hit refresh. I leave some of these mistakes in because it's likely you might make the same thing, and so why not let you see some of the common mistakes, or at least the mistakes that a guy could make. So that's pretty good. I like that. Bang. So you can hit it and it's just going to go bang. That's what I want it to do. So there is how you would do a simple animation. You could animate whatever you want that would just start animating as soon as the scene loaded. Now that that is done, we are going to go ahead and put that onto the nonlinear actions panel. So we can get rid of this one. So we can just go ahead and bring up our NLA editor. And on here, let's scoot that over. Let's see. We want this to become, change from our dope sheet, we now want it to become the action editor. And this is going to be link 3, so we can call it link 3 action, and that's just fine. And now as this is complete, we have opened our NLA editor, and that animation is already here, but it's right in line with everything else. And since we want it to be non-linear, we're going to create it into a little brick. And it's really super easy. You just click this thing right here. Bang, and that's it. It's done. That's all we have to do. And now it is in the non-linear editor, and we can assign, once we'll do our nodes later, but we can assign markers here. And you just hit the M key and it puts a marker in, and we'll do that later. So there is one action for our link 3. And so we're just going to repeat that process for each of these to get an action in our NLA. And then we can go ahead and move those around and put them where we want and only play them when we want, when the right thing is clicked. So I'm going to go ahead and go through that process a few more times. So that's done. And by the way, when I did that, you notice it disappeared here. And there's no more keyframes to erase or fix. And what you could do is, if you click here, you can bring it back. I'm going to go ahead and X that out. So it's not erased, it's still here. I can still open it up. I can still bring it up again. And see, it's starting to create another action here, which we don't need. We've already done it, so I'll go ahead and X that out. So we've got 2 of them done so far. So let's do this last one. And we'll go ahead and key that into the NLA, which is just a single click. Bada bing, bada bang, and it's done. And we don't really need this anymore, I don't think. I'll just scoot it up there and leave it there in case we change our mind. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to spread them out and also add sound objects in. So this was my first time adding sound into Blender. I've always maybe exported some videos and added the sound later. I thought it was really hard, but it's actually pretty super easy. So I'm just going to come into our 3D viewport here, and we'll scoot over. And I'm going to put what we're going to do is put a speaker object in. I'm just going to put one next to each link. You can actually do positional audio with this, so it's not so important where the audio comes from in this case, but it may for another project you're doing. So adding a speaker is pretty much as easy as this. Create a speaker. There it is. So let's look, yeah, that's right where I want it. So we'll just put it right there. And I'm going to hit Shift, duplicate, Z, Shift, I say Shift, duplicate, I'm hitting Shift D, duplicate, and I hit Z so it slides down the Z scale. And so now I've got 3 speakers. Now, to find out how hard it is to put that in the NLA, look, it's already there. So that's how hard that was. Now I'm going to assign a sound to these speakers, and you can assign a different sound to each speakers, but in my case, each link is going to sound the same. So I have a OGG file, which works good in Mozilla and Chrome. I tested it with Edge and Explorer, and it didn't work with either one of them. Hopefully we don't have to relegate Edge to the same hole we relegated Explorer to. Hopefully they get up on that. And I think you can work with some different sound formats, and I'll have to look at the documentation, but you can put some different formats in that will hit more browsers. But right now this covers Chrome and Mozilla, according to the test I just did. So with that selected, I'm going to come over here and hit the speaker. And one confusing thing if you're new to Blender is if you ever hit something here and you see nothing here, scroll that up. I do that to myself all the time. Okay, so we're just going to open a sound file, and there's my Clink sound file. Open that one, and we'll just repeat it for my other ones. open, clink, open, clink. Let's put it right there and hit play and see what we get. See if we get any sound from those things. There we go. When I put those speakers onto the stage or into my 3D space, they appeared where my playhead was, which was already at 20. So those sound strips appeared past it. That's why they didn't play. So now I have one in the playhead. And what we're going to do is let's expand this out. And we're going to go ahead and position these all. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll put link 1 right here on frame 1. And we'll put this in the same place. Then theoretically you could, since we're going to specify the beginning and end on each of these, where it's going to play when we click the right link, you could just put them right next to each other. But I have noticed either it's a bug in my thinking or a bug in the software, because this concept is actually very new for Blend4Web. But when you set it up to play, it works just fine. But when it goes to if you then set it up to play its little animation and then redirect to a link after that, it can play a few frames after it's supposed to be stopped. And so if you space this out, it should fix that. And either I'll fix my thinking or they'll fix the bug, and I'll put a little update that it's fixed. So prior to completing my editing of this video, I did hear from Alexander Romanov on the Blend4Web team, and he confirms it is a bug. However, the bug has been fixed, and in the next release we won't have that problem. So in the very near future, you won't need to add extra frames in to prevent the playhead from moving further than you intend. So I'm going to scroll and move sideways and give myself some space. And so I've got one link and one sound here. So let's go up to like 50, frame 50. Oops, get it right at 50. There we go. And let's put that at frame 50. And then our third one, we'll put that, so 150, let's put this one at 100. And this one at 100. Click. Okay. And so then I'm going to put our final frame on this animation at 120. Otherwise it won't render anything past that, even though it's not going to play all 120 at once. Okay, so now it's 120 frames long. Now what we can do is go ahead and bring up our node editor, which used to be scary to me because I thought it was so complicated, but it's not that bad. So I'm going to go ahead and hit, and we don't need that. We don't need that. I hit T for that, by the way. And I'm going to scoot another window down here, just what we need, another window. And we don't need to see our links very distinctly right now, so I'll leave that kind of big. And I'll bring up our node editor. There it is. Okay, and another thing you want to make sure is you come to this little box right here, which is the Blend4Web logic editor. And then we're going to come over to this panel here, or this the scene panel, and come to, we'll spin down the logic editor, put a check mark in it, and go ahead and add a new one, and it's just going to bring up the first default name there, and come here and click on that so we're on the same one. Now there's our beginning, and we'll put that there. And so what we're going to do is our first node is going to select and jump. So it's going to be tied to a 3D object, and it's going to select our hit on that object. So let's go add logic node, select and jump. So that's going to be right there. And then from there it's going to go to a play. So I'm just going to hit Shift A as a shortcut and hit logic node play. And then finally we're going to do a redirect. Shift A, page redirect. That's what we want right there. So it's going to start here, and once that starts, it's done. And then it's going to come here and go from the select of the link one. In fact, I'll come right here and start that out right now. I'm going to have that be link 1. And then here's where we set our markers since this is the play node, we have to set markers just to say, okay, it's going to play from the start marker to the end marker. And that's super easy to do. I'll come over here to our NLA. Okay, let's come back over here and go on to frame 1 and just hit the M key. And we want another one at frame 20, M key. And then we want one at frame 50, hit the M key. And the end of that is going to be 70, M key. And then we want one at 100, M key. And at the end of that is going to be 120. Right there. So all our markers are in. And so all we have to do is come over here and just select, that's going to be from 1 to 20 right there. Should be 0, 1 to 20. That should be good. And it's going to go something like that. That's going to go there. I can make it stick. There we go. And if that gets hit, it's going to go there. And it's going to play that. And once it's played, then it's going to go here. And since we have 3 of these, I can hit, I'll select that and shift select those. And shift D for duplicate. And shift D for duplicate. Now, if that misses, it's going to go here. And if that misses, it's going to go here. And if that misses, it's going to start back at the beginning. And I'm going to shift drag across that line there. And it's going to give me a little node. Well, I guess not a node. It's going to give me a, what do you call that thing? Hold on a second, I'll tell you. I'm going to stick it right there. You call that thing go to add layout. Reroute, that's what it's called. So you can add one of those things just like that. So I can add it right there, and I'll unhook that, and I can come to there and go to there. So let's check our logic real quick. We start, we get a hit on our object, and it goes, if it gets hit, it goes to the play, and then goes to the redirect, the URL redirect. So let's that one goes from frame 1 to 20. So this one should go from frame 50 to frame 70, and this one should go frame 100 to frame 120. And right now we have all of these set up for Blend4Web. I'll put one different one in there that might be useful for you. I'll put in there. And we'll put blender.org here. So blender. Let's get a D in there. Blender.org, and we got our return. Now, incidentally, if you wanted to do a clickable animation that didn't include a page redirect, what you would want to do is you can't have a dead end like that. So if these were all gone, all you'd want to do is reroute each one of these, each and every one of them back to the beginning. And if you did that, it would just click and play once, and so you can make a click and play object. In our case, we're doing a click and a play and a redirect. Let's go ahead and do an export and see how bad we screwed this up. Let's go export. HTML, and we'll bring up our browser and refresh. I left something checkmarked. Let's go check it out. I believe I left, let's check each one of these. Make sure, apply default animation. We don't want that to be checked. I forgot to come here and go to NLA, yeah. I have to click that, I think. Let's make sure I got all those hitboxes. Oh, you know what? I did not. Wow. Yeah, that's my problem right there. So that should be link 1. That should be link 2. And look at that. It's like a warning to me, but I was just ignorant to it. Okay, so now I should be closer to getting what I want. You forget something like that, and it had like a warning triangle, but I still didn't notice it. All right, so let's go ahead and try that. See where we're at. Refresh. There we go. And the page did not redirect. Well, it did, but it still played past our playhead. So let's try that again. So let's hit the my link to. Okay, I like the animation. Okay, so it is working, but the playhead moves on beyond where it's supposed to stop. So we might have to spread those out a little further. I'm going to go ahead and make this larger window so we can edit it a little easier. So I'm going to, on this little triangle, I'm going to drag on it, but I'm going to hold down the Shift key. And it appeared off on another screen, so I'm going to drag it down here. And I'm just going to expand this bad boy out so we can get a little more room to work here and spread these out a little bit so we don't get them playing beyond where we want them to. So let's take the number 2, and I'm going to shift that, and let's go ahead and hit G to grab them, and let's move them all the way down to, let's move them down to 200. And then that one, shift, click that one and grab that one, and we'll move that down to 300. And we're going to, I'm going to go ahead and hit delete, or try X, delete. I could move these, but they would still retain their same name, and if I create new ones, then they will be named the new frame number. So I'll leave frame 1. I guess I could have left that one. So I'll go ahead and put that on frame 20 and make a marker, and frame 200 and make a marker. Oh, I need to make it one on 322 or 220. There we go. And 300, make a marker, and 320 and make a marker. And I'm going to go ahead and just close that, and we still have it here. Now we do need, since we expanded those way out, I'm going to go ahead and make our last frame 320. And since we just changed our markers, we have an angry red here that tells us we've thoroughly screwed something up. And that's good, because that would be an easy one to forget. So remember, this one is now 200 to 220. And this is 300 to 320. And like I said, this whole node concept is really new, so that's probably going to be something that gets fixed. Either that, or there's something I'm missing, and I'll get an education. So let's go ahead and I think we can just fix that by adding more here. Let's just add another 100 frames to it, and we'll just make 420. And that way, when it comes to here, it should stop here, but if it just meanders on, then nothing else happens. It doesn't start over at the beginning and play the first one. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Control S. And then I'm going to export HTML. And we'll look at that again. I'm going to refresh. I'm not sure if it loaded out of history or not. So here's my little environment. Let's try clicking that bottom one. Redirect, lovely. Redirect, lovely. And let's try the middle one. Just run through them all, make sure they all work. Very good, that's it. All right, so I will put this project up on my website, and so you can download this blend file and play around with it. And I'll put some other useful links in the description. So I'd also like to thank the Blend4Web team. They helped me overcome some hurdles in learning this. They took some time out of their schedule to point me in the right direction in a couple areas, and so we've got it all working just how I hoped we would. So thank you guys at the Blend4Web office there in Moscow. Someday, when this is all big and huge, I'll come visit you.